Hi everyone, it's Joanne here from Apple Tree Studio, and it's a very messy studio, but that's a good thing because it means I've been working really hard. So I've just finished filming a lovely tutorial for my patrons, and it's a lovely monochromatic woodland winter scene. There's so much going on in that, so it's a great tutorial for beginners, intermediate and advanced. There's a lot going on in that, and I thought it deserved a little warm-up. So obviously this warm-up is for my patrons, but I thought I'd share this with you guys as well. And it's a monochromatic study of winter trees, because that's what the main painting is about. It's about winter trees. We're going to be creating some nice depth within the picture as well, looking at how we can create distant trees and then those foreground or middle distance winter trees. Negative painting, there's always a lot of that because I am big on negative painting, as I'm sure many of my students will tell you. I'd say that 95% of my tutorials on my paintings involve negative painting, so it's a really good skill to have under your belt. So if you're enjoying my free tutorials, then as ever, please do subscribe. It's free to subscribe and it means an awful lot to me if you do. Give me a thumbs up as well, that's great. And if you're interested in taking your art to the next level, then why not check out my single purchase tutorials or my Patreon channel. And by the way, there are over 50 tutorials on my Patreon channel now, and the subject matter is so varied, so there's always going to be something that you're going to like. You can find all the information on my website, which is www.artbyboon.co.uk, and it'd be lovely to see you there. So without further ado, I'll stop waffling on, go and grab your brushes, and let's paint this little winter scene together. Hi everyone, it's Joanne here from Apple Tree Studio, and I have just finished painting this lovely Winter Wonderland monochromatic painting for my Patreon channel, and that's why my working area is a bit of a mess and my hands are very dirty. But what I thought I'd share with you guys is something that I do encourage my patrons to do, because I know that I've got such a mixed ability of people, and sometimes something like this can be a bit overwhelming. So I do encourage everyone to practice areas. And what I thought I'd share with you guys is just a little section on how you can create with some nice winter trees, just using one colour. I'm going to be using the Sodalite Genuine, we'll go for the size 8 brush, and I've got a little bit of Dr. Martens bleed proof white here, or you could use white acrylic or any white paint. Big jug of clean water. I have cleaned my water. And I'm using a piece of Bockingford paper here. So I'm going to move this one out of the way for now. And let's concentrate on this piece of paper. So let's do a little bit of drawing first. So let's just imagine that we want to paint some nice wintry looking trees. And sometimes, you know, I get it as well. I think to myself, what can I paint today? What can I do? And we tend to get out, you know, very complicated looking photographs and draw it all out. And then with the pressure of painting from that drawing is like immense. So sometimes it's just lovely to just let go and have a play. And Bockingford paper isn't that expensive. I do like using Saunders Waterford as well, but Bockingford is a great paper to use. It's a knot surface, by the way, so it's got a little bit of texture. Okay, so let's put in a nice group of wintry trees. So let's draw them in. So let's have them with a bit of character, perhaps. Look, there's some kind of smaller branches coming off there, look. And we'll have them coming up maybe to a point like that. So if I draw a little semicircle, I know that I want to take the branches up to that point. So there's one. We'll have a smaller one. Maybe like that. Maybe another branch here. You can have as many branches as you like. And maybe one, a little smaller one, kind of coming up like that. And I'm just going to put that little semicircle there so I kind of know where I'm going. Okay, so we've got 3 trees very roughly drawn in, because I don't want to have this very complicated drawing. Just a nice loose drawing that I can kind of follow. And let's put in some nice kind of shrubbery in front of that. So I'll just put a nice kind of squiggly line, something like that. And that's it really, that is all the drawing you need. So, actually I'm going to use my bigger brush because I didn't expect it to draw it so big. Let's wet the paper, let's wet our paper. And I want to try and keep the sides of the trees, or the main branch of the tree, dry. You could use a bit of wax resist, couldn't you? Or you could use a bit of masking fluid. I'm not a lover of masking fluid, as those of you who know me well know that I don't really use that stuff. It's much better to paint by the seat of your pants, I think, because you get too dependent, don't you, on masking fluid. Let's turn my picture upside down, give it a bit of a shake, make sure those washes are going in the right direction. I can paint right over the tops of the trees. I'm just trying to leave the main trunk of the tree nice and dry. And while it's still wet, let's take a nice light wash of the dark and let's let that flow into that wash. See, this is what watercolour's about, isn't it? That lovely explosion of colour. It's just, it never fails to excite me. Okay, let's bring some more up here. There we go. So I've just managed to kind of leave some of those main stems. And I could spray that if I want to. I could get my spray bottle and I could give it a spray. A bit of texture. In fact, this colour, this Sodalite Genuine, really is a lovely colour because it does give you a lot of texture. You could use a Payne's Grey blue shade. You could use burnt umbers. Any dark colour, really. Let's give that a bit of a shake. Give that paint somewhere to go. Lovely jubbly. So while we're waiting for that to dry, let's just find some little areas that I might have missed. Let's put in a value here. So let's anchor this bush to the ground. So let's put in some nice dark value. In this corner here maybe. And then let's use some water and just soften that out. Pushing it up, letting it connect with that shape. There we go. Bit more dark, I think, into that base. Lovely. Okay, let's clean the brush. I'm going to give that another little spritz. And I'm going to let it completely dry. So once it's nice and dry, you can see all the texture as well that's been created by spraying into the wash. Let's define these shapes a little bit, and at the same time define the bush as well. So we're going to use negative painting for that. So let's just take a darker wash and let's paint around the shapes of the trees here. So maybe one like that. And then here's the bush shape, so we'll put some nice linear marks here. And I can soften that wash away with plenty of water using the side of my brush. Let's do some more. Let's put in again a nice dark here. So against the tree shape. Maybe some little squiggly marks there that suggest that shrub. I'll clean the brush, just soften that again with the side of my brush. A few more little darker marks down here, I think. So, the importance of negative painting, because not only have we now defined those lovely tree shapes, we've also helped to kind of describe the grass as well, or the shrub, should I say. We can break down that even more, or break it down even more, shall I say, by giving it some more value. So if we've got the light coming from this way, perhaps we can say, okay, let's put in some darker marks like so, thinking about the shape as well and how you're using your brush, cleaning the brush, softening that mark away, using the side of that brush, pushing that value in. Let's have another little baby one here, look. Softening away, just adding that bit more texture into that area. There we go. And again, I can give that a little spray. Now, this is very wet at the moment, so I can't do too much more, but what I could do is just suggest, with a very light wash, some trees that are in the distance. So I'm just using the point of my brush here, just to draw in some nice shapes that could be distant trees. There we go. Pulling that down. Lots of water, just softening that away. We don't want them to be too strong. We're building up from light to dark, so that's just the illusion. That's all we're creating, just the illusion of more trees in that background. And at this point, when I've stopped fiddling, yes, I really do need to let that completely dry. So once you're nice and dry, we can start now to introduce these 3 trees. And we're going to be using quite a dark paint to do this. And this is the technique that I've used on the other paintings that I showed you earlier. So I'm mixing quite a thick consistency, double creamy consistency of the paint. And I want to try and leave a highlight on the trees themselves. That's why I tried to leave them white. So let's start at the base. So let's put that in. And remember, we've got that little bush shape as well. So I'm going to paint negatively to start with. So we create that nice light against dark. And I can come up now with that thicker paint. I can make little circular shapes with my brush like that, just to give that feeling of that cylindrical kind of shape. I can use the side of my brush, and then I'm going to bring it all the way up to a point. Now I can start to add more branches, so let's just thicken that a little bit. So I can maybe have a nice branch coming up like that, maybe have one coming off here, and all the while I'm thinking about this bit here where the tops of these trees are. I'll put a little line there just to remind me, and I can bring up those shapes to meet that. Let's have another baby one here. Oh, it's so tempting to put so many in, isn't it? Remember that the branches that come off are thicker, and then as they reach the top, they become a lot thinner. Okay, so now we've got that in, let's think about how we can create a kind of feeling of the winter foliage. So I'm going to dip my brush in the paint, and I'm going to do something terrible. I'm going to mash it into my palette. So I'm spraying the hairs of the brush out like that. I'm going to take it on its side. Let's just take a little bit more paint off that and just skim it onto the top. Skim it down like so. There we go. So it's got that lovely kind of wintry foliage feel. I can bring my brush back to a point again and add more branches if I feel the need. Another little tip for you as well, and this is why I don't get manicures very often, because I like to scratch into my painting. So I'm going to use my nail to scratch around that shape. Just to bring a bit of shape back to it. Should we do the other one? So nice thick paint, remembering that shrub in front, taking that wash up. We'll take it to about that point. We'll have another branch here, maybe here. Remembering those little circular movements that we put in before, so we'll put a few of those in there like that. I'm going to bring my tree to this shape. I mean, you could come in with a rigger at this point if you want, or a sword brush. But if you've got a decent round, then as long as you can bring it to a good point, that's always going to be fine. Maybe a bit of scratching into that one. Let's take the brush, push it into the paint, take the excess off, and just skim a little bit more paint into that section. I can always come back later on and add more branches if I feel it needs it. Should we do another one? One more. Okay, let's take that up. Remember the grass shapes in front. Giving your tree a bit of a wobble. A bit of character. Let's have some smaller branches coming off that one. I'm going to bring this down to about that point. I'll just put that little circular movement in. I'm coming back to this one. I can see that needs to be thicker. Again, those lovely circular marks that really help to define the shape of the tree. Some stronger branch shapes. A few scratches. Pushing the brush into the paint and just dragging just a little bit of foliage out like that. At this point you can carry on adding more paint to your trees or smaller branches. It's completely up to you. I can use a bit of water as well on my brush and just soften some of those shapes, just fusing them together with a bit of water. Making them a little bit softer. I can give it a little spray. And now I'm going to wait till that is completely dry before I put any little details in there. So as you can see, mine is nice and dry now, and I'm sure you'll agree that the techniques that I'm sharing with you are very effective for creating trees and landscapes. And I love to paint all types of subject matter, but I always tend to go back to landscapes because, you know, we live in a beautiful world, don't we? And trying to capture that with our watercolours can be quite tricky, but hopefully the techniques that I'm showing you here are really effective. So we could leave it at that. It looks quite nice on its own. And it's also a great little study to put to one side and then paint a colour version from that. But before I finish, for those of you who are interested, I'm going to show you how I can just create a little bit of sparkly snow. So I'm going to take my brush and my Dr. Martin's bleed proof white, and of course you can use this as well to create any highlights that you think you might want to add. So maybe just a couple down the side of the trees perhaps, I don't really think it needs it, but just to show you where you could put yours, you could also put in some more flicks of glasses with that. But I think the nicest thing to do is to load your brush with paint and then just give it a little bit of a tap. Just very gently, just tapping in some nice little snowy areas, just to break it up. Oh, do I need any more? It's so much fun, this technique, that I never want to stop. But I think for now, maybe I should. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that. Now, if you have enjoyed that, then please, please, please do subscribe. It's free to subscribe, and give me a like and a thumbs up. That would be absolutely great. If you want to take your tutorials to the next level, of course, then there's always my Patreon channel. And I do go into a lot more depth with all sorts of different subject matter. I don't just paint flowers. I paint landscapes, florals, gardens, animals, you name it, we'll paint it. So there's a lovely variety of subject matter, and you can find all the information for my free tutorials, for my single purchase tutorials, and of course my Patreon channel on my website, which is www.artbyboon.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.